Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in the words of the Mesillas Yesharim. We're talking about all the things that are permissible for a person to do. The Torah doesn't asr, doesn't prohibit it. On the other hand, the Torah allows for many, many physical, pleasurable acts to take place. However, the Ramchal cautions that if you don't learn precious, you don't learn the proper laws of separation from the beginning, a person will become overindulgent in these areas that will lead to taiva, and the taiva, the desire, will lead to many other things that will bring a person down a bad path. So he writes over here today the following: Hamalbushim vikishutim, clothing, jewelry. Lo hizhira haTorah al yofya mal tavnisam. The Torah doesn't tell you how nice they could be and how they should be made, tailored, slim fit, extra slim fit. The Torah doesn't say anything like that. Ela shelo yeh behem kiloyim. All that it says is there should not be any kiloim, shatnez, wool and linen. And number two, if it's a four-corner garment, it should make sure that you have tzitzis on there. And then besides that, all other clothes are permitted. Yes, of course, we understand that women have halachas of tznius, they have laws of modesty, which means their clothing is going to have to abide by the laws of covering up the flesh. And even men have an obligation to be at tzanua. Yeah, we have psukim that hint to this idea as well, that we also have to have modesty to make sure that we are also not revealing too much in our clothing. That's also true. Nevertheless, it doesn't say a list in the Torah the kinds of clothes that you could wear and the kinds of clothes you can't wear, as long as you're not violating any halacha. Amnam, however, milo yeda shemilbishas hape'er. A person has to know that if they wear fancy, flashy clothes, expensive clothes that are eye-catching, and they make the person, they give them a zich, they make them feel good about the clothing that they're wearing, you know what's going to end up happening? It's going to timashech hagaiva, it's going to bring them to gaiva, to haughtiness. They can even come to znus, to illicit relations as a result of their flashy clothes, that everybody's staring and looking at them, and they're feeling very good about themselves as they walk around, knowing that they are an eyepiece, that everyone's focusing in on them. Besides the fact, all the jealousy, all the desires, all the exploitation that ends up being drawn out as a result of this, because it's so valuable to a person. I mean, the person himself, he wells up his taivas, his desires inside of him. But imagine all of the keen, all the jealousy he creates because of the way that he dresses, and he exploits other people to get his clothing the way that he wants. It's a terrible thing, says the Ramchal. The Alter of the Varduk, he did not let his Talmidim, his students, when they would go to buy new clothing, he did not let them be the first ones to wear it. He said you put on a new suit, and what did they have back then? They had rough wool or rough linen or rough cotton that they would use to make suits. They weren't even half as fancy as the lowest quality suit that we have today. But when they would buy a new suit, it was usually tailor-made. There were no stores to go to. And he said, you're going to put on your new suit, you're going to feel so good about yourself. You're going to start to get a little bit haughty and the balgaiva as a result. He said, before you put on your suit, let your friend wear your suit. And that was the minhag in the Varduk. The minhag in the Varduk was that when you got a new suit, you were not the first one to wear your new clothing. Rather, you give it to a friend, you let him wear it in once, twice, a few times. Let him wear it so that when you put it on, it's not crisp and new and will not fill you with the same gaiva, the same haughtiness as it would have before. Says the Ramchal, Ukvar Amru Zal Chazal of teaching us Kevan Sheroya Yetzer. When the Yetzer HaRa sees Adam Shetole Ba'akevoi, he sees a person who walks in a very haughty manner, V'mashesh Bigodav, and he's always checking his clothing to make sure they look good. U'mesalsel B'sa'ara, and he's always combing his hair, pushing that nice little chup on the top over there off to the side, wants to make sure it looks good. Oimer, the Yetzer HaRa says, Ze Sheli. This person belongs to me. That's Yetzer HaRa, he says. A person who's so worried and concerned with how they look and their clothing and the checking themselves out and looking in the mirror, and they walk in a haughty type of, conceited type of a way, says the Yetzer HaRa, Zeh Shali. It means that the Yetzer HaRa now can enter into this person's life and destroy him if he so wishes. Hatiyul v'hadibor, taking trips and schmoozing. Im eino bidvar iser, if there's nothing usher about it, v'adei din Torah mutar hu. According to the letter of the law, it's permissible to have those conversations, to go on those tiyulim, on those trips. However, kama bittul Torah nimshach mimenu. How much bittul, how much wasted time from one's Torah learning results from the long shmoozes that a person has. Kama min lashon hara, how much lashon hara ends up getting spoken. How can a person talk for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours and not say any lashon hara? If you're the Chavetz Chaim, you could do that, but most of us cannot. Kama min ashkarim, how many lies is a person going to tell? And they're going to fabricate and exaggerate and do things like that in their speech. Kama min alitzanos, how many scoffing jokes a person is going to make, sarcastic, put people down and the like. V'oimer b'roiv devarim. Shlomo Melech, King Solomon says, with a lot of words, la yechda pasha, it's impossible to cease the sins from coming. Of course there's going to be sin. If you're b'roiv devarim, you speak a lot, eventually you're going to end up speaking about the wrong things. And it says the Ramchal, even though these things don't have explicit prohibitions in the Torah, a chacham mizrayas hanoiled, a wise person sees into the future and what's going to be born as a result of his actions. And if you overindulge in these areas, suffice to say, says the Ramchal, you are certainly treading down a very slippery slope, and most likely will end up trampling and stumbling into various sins that they never intended to do, all because they didn't set out on a path of precious, of separating themselves from getting immersed in the taiva from the beginning. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.